Go to Nissan Motor in Japan. Yonghyo Ryu, March 2013, PLMIS.tstory.com. If someone else has to do it, I do it. I do my best in everything I do. Whatever you have to do, have fun. If you need to do something, do it now. Andrew Malyus. There are 2 gifts given to me in the last half year since I started writing notes. The first gift is that it gave me time to sort out the past. The second gift brings comfort to oneself in the hope of being helpful to those who have not experienced diversity through notes. Going to Nissan Motor in Japan, Part 1. Warm-up for the pleasure of work. March 2005. Participated in a project to select the next generation CAD&PLM of Nissan Motors as a global expert in the Platform DMU task. The assignment period was 4 months. When I arrived at the Nissan Program Office in Hongatsugi, Japan, I began to worry about where and how to start, contrary to what I had expected. Put your worries aside for a while. If you get off at Haneda Airport and get on Line 3, the shuttle bus to the out-of-city bus terminal stops. After undressing at the Hyatt Hotel next to the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building, I looked around the City Hall. The park behind City Hall is a park that I often visited during my stay for several months. The feeling of spring and early summer was good, but we need to be careful in the early morning, because of the homeless. In the morning, when we go to school, I think some large companies will still do national gymnastics at 8 o'clock in the morning, really. It was almost identical. My goal when I left for Japan was to finish work quickly and enjoy my leisure time, but when I was about to start, the preparations for each stage were insufficient. For 2 weeks after starting work, I went back and forth between the Tokyo office and the Nissan Program Office, and on the weekends, I went to the Tokyo Science Museum in Yokohama. Oh, gozaimasu. A guide explains various scientific equipment to people who visit the Science Museum store. I bought one there too, but I can't remember where it is now. Just in time, a robot competition was held, and I watched the robot competition for 3 hours. It was impressive to see people of all ages decorate and play unique robots. The judge's seat also confirmed the victory or defeat of the game with a serious look. In every game, round Uni boosted the excitement. I only had to turn around once. The bright eyes and serious atmosphere of elementary school students. The 2 robots look like they are watching a match between David and Goliath. In the world of robots, David's sleight of hand skills do not work, only strength and technique are required. Goliath's victory. At the Statue of Liberty. This is Tokyo, Japan, not New York. Now Yokohama China Street. I came here to have lunch, and after looking at the pier for a while, I couldn't come back. After strolling along the Yokohama pier for a while, found a small boat. It says 300 yen, so why is it so cheap when it's naively round trip? I don't know that it's a fare for each section, an episode that came from ignorance of my short Japanese skills. Once I wrote it, I enjoyed it without thinking about it. One day I'll go back to where I was. It was cool and the scenery was beautiful until I found out later that there was a huge fee. It's a feeling that you feel more and more when you reach the end. It was one way, not round trip. This boat is not a tourist destination, but a means of transportation. In this way, March was passing by without any work. Going to Nissan Motor, Part 2. A day in Hakone. April 2005. It has been over a month since I came to Japan. In the meantime, my Japanese friends take it slow by analyzing solutions by checklist items, gap and SWOT, etc. But is it easier said than done? Ryu sang. Slow death. Due to our nature, we had a busy schedule by ourselves because of our tendency to want to finish what we could do quickly. Finally, after installing the POC system in Nissan Motor, we started the process of setting it up busily. I thought I would work if I stayed at the hotel for the weekend, so I bought a one-day pass ticket and left the hotel early in the morning to feel the spring of Hakone for the first time. It took about 30 minutes from Hongatsugi to Hakone. Hakone's standard sightseeing course. Take a bus, pass through a cedar forest, ride a pirate ship, ride a cable car, buy a bag of black eggs, 5,000 won, at the top of a sulfur-smelling mountain and eat it while taking the cable car, mountain railway end. It was the first time, so I recorded all the courses accurately. First take the bus, pass through the cedar forest. Before boarding, stop by the park in the middle of the course and take a picture with the main view of Hakone in the background. Because it's springtime, the cherry blossoms are in full bloom. It's a bit colder here than Tokyo, so the cherry blossoms bloomed late. Picturesque Hakone. I didn't like this museum very much. A place that seems to be related to our ancestors. There are several types of ships, and after passing this one, a pirate ship finally appears. The hotel in front costs 800,000 won per night. I went there later, and the scenery is really great. The next course is the cable car. In November 2006, it was difficult to move by bus instead of the cable car due to construction. In the distance, you can see a mountain spouting sulfur. 30 seconds before reaching the summit. I came later with my family, but my wife was sorry that I couldn't go up because of time. If you go up along the winding road, the smell of sulfur is amazing. Moo is poisonous. There is a pool of hot sulfur springs. If you put a raw egg in it and take it out, it turns black and just cooks. If you look down from the cable car coming down, you can see the sulfur spring development. Waiting for the mountain railway after finally coming down. Almost there, I met the photographer. She introduced herself as a National Geographic reporter from Texas and said that she travels with her 70-year-old mother and writes articles. The old mother I actually met on the train. It was so cool to see him age gracefully. She told me to contact her when she comes to Texas, but I'm not sure where she is. The short break of the weekend soon became the vitality of the main game that awaited.
Going to Nissan Motor Part 3. NGIC, Nissan Global IT Center, 홍아쯔기의. April 2005. After a month of preparation, the setup for full-scale benchmarking began. The Platform DMU alone, which I was in charge of, had over 100 checklist items. Since it was a checklist from a business point of view, it took more than 2 weeks to understand the meaning properly. What I felt while working was that the approach was quite different from the case in Korea. Like the products of Japanese craftsmanship, Japanese people are really strong in detail. There was nothing to skim through. Even if there are more than 100 items on the checklist, users in Korea do not spend much time explaining them, so it takes a lot of time to understand everything clearly. Japanese people kindly tried to convey the meaning in detail. I don't know the story behind it. In the first 1-hour meeting, we spent all our time Q&A on only 10 out of 100 questions. Then, we checked each other's schedule and made a schedule. At the meeting a few days later, only 20 items were explained, and in the end, 3 or 4 more meetings were held. After the checklist was organized, the full-fledged work began, such as comparing solutions, and after the draft version was completed, conversations with R&D at the headquarters began. In the first and second rounds, the gap was reduced by annotating each other in the data through email. I was used to the factor-oriented way of working, but at first it was not easy to talk with the R&D people at the head office who were used to the storytelling method. I thought it would be a good idea to look closely at it since the materials were explained, but the American approach was to ask questions about the business objective, current status, what to expect, and how to do it. First, if the business objective was not understood, the R&D people would never give up their opinion no matter what anyone said. The conference call starts at 12 o'clock every night in the hotel room, and ends around 1:02. Through conversations with the head office R&D that took place over 2 weeks, each other's positions were understood and became familiar, and at the same time, Nissan Motor's requirements were becoming more and more specific, and the analysis results on how to implement them into the system were returned one by one. In the meantime, on the other hand, the system was installed inside Nissan and prototypes were made with Nissan car models. CAD data and BOM information were provided, optimally automatically configured the option, variant BOM in batches, and digital mock-up analysis was prepared for platform verification. First, the test was carried out for 2 weeks, and then Nissan officials participated in the process to directly check the test results. In Nissan's case, the process leader made almost all decisions. The possible reason is to understand all the major processes and to drive with confidence in the key points, so provide sufficient time for explanation in advance, and ask each company to implement the best methods and techniques that each company can do. Because I knew the system and process so well, there was nothing I could avoid. The suspicious thing that day was that there was an email request for a reply about the reason, and we had to prepare materials every night, so we couldn't leave work until after 8 o'clock every night. No one from abroad, including me, complained. Except for one person. I had a friend from Italy who did engine modeling, and he was almost at the level of an Italian fashion model. Sunglasses on my head, clothes change every day. Work is important, but leisure life seemed to be important to this friend. Also, since he is still unmarried, he is the most popular among Japanese female employees. Going to Nissan Motors Part 4. Benchmarking. May 2005. Benchmarking was conducted in a pre-explained and negotiated scenario. It went on for almost a week, and it progressed a little bit every day. Personally, benchmarking in Japan. I was curious about this, but when I actually proceeded, systematic data was calculated in a reasonable way. Number of mouse clicks. A program that automatically calculates the speed, etc. was installed on the PC and the results were compared using Excel. We had to carefully rehearse several times to prepare for issues that would become issues in advance. Because it is an important strategic customer that the company also stakes its life and death on, existed. Kevin, the entire PM, had all the qualifications to be respectable. He's serious, he's strong in detail, and he has everything an English gentleman exudes from his gentle appearance. However, first of all, he was sharp enough to be cool about his work and instilled the principle that he must know the reason. If the person in charge did not understand the contents clearly, he made sure to bring a note to Nissan and come to know 100%. Weekly verbal progress checks prevented problems by finding any missing parts, so that sudden embarrassing incidents did not occur, and the way of working changed from paper-based work to storytelling, which raised tension every day. Personally burned with passion to achieve the goals he wanted to achieve. The TFT team I belonged to was made up of Japanese, French, and Koreans, and it seemed to go more smoothly than I thought while collaborating on what we needed. After entering data and setting the environment in the system, the result value did not appear on the screen during the test, so I had to repeat it several times to find the cause. Fortunately, the cause was found, and all preparations for benchmarking were over. In addition to Platform DMU, there were 9 more tasks, and Platform DMU progressed the fastest. In order to do Platform DMU, it must be configurable BOM first. It composes all options and derivative models for a vehicle model, and performs digital vehicle-based digital mock-up verification in which the entire assembly is automatically displayed on the screen according to specifications. And record the process of collaborating and resolving issues for each verification item. In the future, it is stored in the past car problem DB and can be reconfirmed. On the one hand, the powertrain DMU was also paralleled, performed by an Indian. Thanks to that, we became close, and the friend brought her family. In Tokyo, we decided to have dinner together, and we went to an Indian restaurant that had been adapted to Japanese tastes. He said he would eat chicken, but not seafood or meat. It is difficult because there are many sacrifices to live with Indian people, but there are quite a few things to learn. Because he is free about English, he has great competitiveness. No matter how smart Koreans are, if you can't bet on skills in your field of expertise, it doesn't seem easy to beat Indians. In early May, after returning home for the holidays, I went back and successfully completed the benchmarking test. The results were evaluated as being quite aware of the possibility. After completing the process of creating a manual for the results of the to-be model and how to use each step of the process at the R&D headquarters, almost all processes were completed a month ahead of schedule. Now that I think about it, I regret that it would have been nice if I had more time to balance work and rest. I went to work today and am grateful that I have something to do and that I can help someone. Real discovery is not about finding new lands, but about seeing them with new eyes. Marcel Proust.
Christmas gift that winters. The process of waiting for the results after years of long tunnel-like benchmarking is over. An unknown energy flows in the waiting. An unknown energy created by a mix of tension, nervousness, and confidence in victory. At least that was the case 8 years ago. How to say? And suddenly I had this thought. That this isn't the end, it's just the beginning. It is like the process by which water flows naturally from a high place to a low place in order for things to work well. Anyway, when I participated in benchmarking in Korea and a big deal overseas, the feeling was quite different. It's hard to explain in one word. However, it is true that it provided one of the turning points in my life for myself. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like if I hadn't had this kind of luck. Everyone gathered in the conference room nervously. And the last questionnaire came, and the content of the question was really simple. I see your products are like this, and your competitors are like this. They were talking about what you would do. In a word, all events in the final selection process end when the questions about the last strategy part are answered. Now, I mainly do these things, but at the time, I was really curious about how to answer them. The results have had a profound impact on the solution changes since then. And Christmas Day has finally arrived. The goddess of participation and victory did not evade us, and we had a happy Christmas. The hard work has finally paid off. I couldn't participate in the award ceremony held at the head office due to other schedules, but I feel good when I see the 350Z Nissan model still attached to the trophy at home. For a while, my son took off a model car and played with it. It has now been returned to its original location and is being stored in a box for a long time. I'm thinking of gifting it to my grandson in the future. Of course, the prerequisite is that the son get married and have a baby, but carrot. I am always grateful to Kevin Eustace, George, Cozy, Andy, Guillaume, and Sammy who made me feel professional and proud of being one of the 50 global experts with whom I shared joys and sorrows during the benchmarking period. I'm just grateful for letting me enjoy the heyday of my IT worker life. At the same time as this joy, work related to VR and Platform DMU related to Nissan Motors was additionally poured out. Nissan's Heart Design Center. After Nissan's next-generation CAD and PDM were selected, additional requirements increased. Among them, the Nissan Design Center started a full-scale system review in line with next-generation CAD, which is the core of vehicle development. One of them is virtual reality, VR. The Design Center received a request for a demo of design-related tools and VR. The goal is to present a vision for the future, but that doesn't mean that users are not Japanese who can easily change it because of how cool they are. However, using this opportunity as a springboard to expand their influence was the most important strategy. I was asked to do a VR demo through a conference call, and on the one hand, I felt good, but on the other hand, I felt uncomfortable because of the pressure to do well. I have to show off the skills I have honed over the years. It took 2 weeks to prepare and demo, and I got to work with a colleague from Toyota Design. I'm in VR, and he's a styling demo. First of all, the biggest concern was how to set up the demo storytelling. The time given to me is only 5 minutes. It was the mission given to me to impress within 5 minutes. Are you Ryusen Marides? Ganodes. After the words were easily okay, I was worried a lot on the inside. How embarrassing would it be if I didn't prepare well? I put my worries down for a while and started preparing. I cannot mention the detailed preparation process, but a lot of effort was put into optimizing the equipment, content, and beam projector. System replacement due to speed problems, beam projector preparation for high-resolution display. All systematic preparations were over, and the first rehearsal was in progress. It was pointed out that the speed was not good because a lot of data was loaded, and the scenario did not impress. That night, I fell into trouble again. How to solve speed and scenario problems. After thinking about it all night, I started storytelling about the scenario. A Ford Mondeo vehicle catches my eye on a turntable placed on an observatory next to a road that runs along the beach next to Monterey Beach, California. First, to evaluate the exterior of the car with the turntable rotates slowly, and after turning once, the exterior is evaluated starting from the headlamp at the front and then to the rear trunk of the vehicle as a person walks slowly. Then I go back to the driver's seat and open the door. After entering the room, the driver checks various instrument panels. And when you start the engine, the instrument panel and dashboard lights up as if in night mode. Step on the accelerator slowly and watch the engine RPM rise. When the VR button is pressed, the audio options are immediately swapped for spec-specific confirmation. Also change the tires and wheels to see how it feels. Then, the vehicle moves using the driving test track. The storytelling was okay, and the demo content was completed in 2 days. VR has a part that matches my own hobbies, so it was the moment when I really felt the greatest joy while working. If I do this, the confidence that I can do something is coming alive. Just in case, I made a 5-minute video to prepare for an emergency. Finally, the day we release the Design Center demo. Visit Nissan Motor R&D Center. After passing through difficult entrances, we finally arrived at the demo room. With more than 20 people in attendance, tension increased even more. The demo started, followed by styling and VR. The styling lasted more than an hour, and was presented with almost perfect touches on all functions. However, from the user's point of view, I thought that the explanation was too detailed. Since it was held after lunch, starting at a time when the concentration level was slightly less was also helpful. Finally, VR presentation time. When I explain the scenario in English, my Japanese colleague translates it into Japanese. I guessed that he probably explained with great spice to my words. Sometimes it's when I see a Japanese translation that's much longer than what I said. Since the demo could not be stopped in the middle, it was conducted in English and intermittently translated into Japanese. The demo lasted about 3 minutes, and the speed and resolution were all as expected. I came out with a sense of satisfaction, and the head of the Nissan Design Center explained the Design Center model. He said that if he builds more in the future, the Design Center will be completed with a length of several hundred meters. We exchanged business cards, and he said that he knows Korea well and likes food. A few days later, feedback came, saying that they expressed considerable interest in VR. Even the insiders didn't have high expectations at first, but they were quite encouraged by the results. Since then, it has become the basis for building a new VR center. The EDS VR Center was in charge of building the VR Center, and unfortunately, as a result of comparing various tools, the Nissan Design Center selected a professional tool that emphasized VR quality rather than work efficiency and hurt it. However, personal satisfaction became another pleasure along with the sense of achievement. Nissan Project. November 2006. Nissan Motors visited again. It was different now than before. As I was given the job again as a solution architect of the billable project, my shoulders became more and more heavy. There were a lot of things I didn't know well, and I thought that I was having a hard time buying it, and that maybe this was the first time I was doing it. Among them, the friend from the headquarters sitting next to me was too eager. When I asked over a cup of coffee, he had a small wish to finish and return before Christmas no matter what. Isn't it possible to go home for a day if you like the distance between Korea and Japan? There was a lot to be gained while working as a consolation. One time, a Japanese friend asked me if I liked soccer, and I said yes, so I brought it with me to a soccer match after work. Most of them were Indians and Japanese. I definitely wouldn't eat meat, but I did soccer. Maybe it's curry power. Thanks to this, it became an opportunity to get acquainted with Indian people, and I got used to and understood quite a few rolling words. Except for tomorrow. For Indians, tomorrow means. It means, let's do it later, and I believed in it thinking that it was going to be done tomorrow just as it really meant, and almost ended up having a big match. I was in a situation where I needed help from an Indian person, but they said tomorrow, so I waited the next day and didn't come, so I asked the person next to me. Even back to India. Then came back a month later due to visa problems. I'm completely at a loss. After experiencing that, when I heard the word tomorrow again from another person, I definitely saw Jong that day. Another episode emphasized an uncertain fact, and that evening, the Outlook mailbox was piled up with emails from customer PMs. What is the basis? Prove it. After answering overnight, reassessing the situation the next day, clearing up unnecessary misunderstandings with the help of a Japanese person, and politely apologizing for the fact that I was wrong, the situation was finally over. Again, I was surprised by the tenacity of the Japanese, and I resolved to have the pride of a professional when it comes to work. In order to do that, you have to put in more effort and conviction. That's how I finished all the schedules before Christmas that winter and put an end to the long 2-year journey. Simple, easy, best. This is what I contributed in last year's note, and it was the Nissan project that reminded me of these words. The process that becomes the key method. See to feel to change. A process that does not become a key method. Analyze to think to change. I seem to have been working as the latter. This is somewhat similar to asking people to cross a stone bridge after tapping it, but it was difficult to change because they analyzed and thought about new things too much and judged them before they even went there. Now, 7 years have passed since then. When I see myself changing from seeing greater than feeling greater than changing, I am sometimes surprised and recall memories of the past. What did you learn? Why PLM? Not many people ask these questions these days. Just how do you? If you ask a PLM expert, it will mostly come down to transparency, modularity, efficiency, quality. And here is a clear answer. After all, the ROI, KPI of a PLM project is transparency. If this is not secured, the so-called failure lesson learned gift. However, failure is never the end, but expensive tuition for a new leap. However, if you just try to suture failure without calling it a failure, it will remain as an incurable wound. PLM will be able to survive in the competition only if it responds to the situation every time through constant improvement, but I feel regret when I see it as a concept of simple investment. I think the reason is because what I have should be different from others. I need to know what others are doing, and what I do contains the laws of survival that others should not know. However, if you look at it from the management level, it's like a money-eating hippo. You will definitely get the return on your investment. If you control expenses like ERP, of course, the reduction effect will be obvious, but PLM will be asked the same question 10 years ago, now, and 10 years from now, and it seems that it is really difficult to answer, no matter how many years pass. Like Nokia, it enjoyed world kingship in the mobile phone market until 2009, but in just 1 or 2 years, it entered an endless downward trend in line with expressions such as falling without wings. Same with GM and Ford. However, there are others who explain it from a different perspective. In the case of GM, looking at the recovery after going to the brink of bankruptcy, it is said that the power of PLM invested in R&D is the basis. When these companies are doing well, they say that the role of PLM was important. However, when business conditions go bad, PLM doesn't go well, so I don't say that. However, the important thing is that when a company recovers from difficulties, I think PLM will show its true value. Even if people leave, information remains alive, and assets that are only contained in individual heads disappear together when they leave, so we must take good care of them when they are there. What did you learn? The role of a consultant. 7 years have passed since then, and I have found the answer to the role a consultant should have at that time. Now that we have all entangled, sometimes becoming enemies and sometimes allies, and getting out of the long pie tunnel as partners, the biggest lesson we learned is that consultants are really consultants, that I am the owner of the company, and that I am responsible for the project performance. That we have. Also, we tried to force the consultants to fit our work style. I can now feel the initial errors and realize that when you treat a consultant as a real consultant, you get the results you deserve. And the importance of discarding, changing, and categorizing what must be done. Quote, Digital Pasco. A trip to the past until this issue. The past that is so close is intact in my notebook, and I want to go back to everyday conversation, believing that someday it will come out to the world. I went to work today and am grateful that I have something to do and that I can help someone. Yonghyo Ryu. I am working as a managing director at D1 Company, Limited. Starting with automotive seat design work such as EF Sonata and XG Grandeur, he has conducted global business through global IT companies such as SGI, Siemens, Oracle, and PTC for 16 years, and is again performing field-oriented platform-based engineering services. YouTube PLM Cafe, #PLM Listener, #Value Designer. Email yonghyo.ryu@gmail.com. Blog plmis.tstory.com. End.